स्वागत है आपका एक बार फिर से मेरे YouTube चैनल पर। इस बार थोड़ा the group of four has reduced now to group of two. I am joined once again by my friend Rahul Desai. Hi.
Hello. Yeah, it feels like the screen looks so odd, right? Just with two of us. There's too much space, right?
Yeah, there needs to be like two more people up here, but ठीक है चल. Bhatia is busy with his life, and Ishita Singh Gupta is busy with Pujo. So neither
Uh,
of them could join us today. But it's okay. Welcome back to my channel, everybody who's watching. Today we're going to be talking about Homebound and One Battle After Another. Rahul Desai is my wonderful friend and one of the best film critics we have. Not to embarrass you, but that's my opinion, personal opinion. You can fight me. You can follow him on Twitter. राहुल का मैंने ट्विटर पेज ऑलरेडी लिंक कर दिया डिस्क्रिप्शन के नीचे, तो अगर तुम अपने लैपटॉप पे देख रहे हो ना तो नीचे डिस्क्रिप्शन खोलो, उस पे उसका ट्विटर का पेज मैंने लिंक किया हुआ, उसे फॉलो करो। और राहुल के दोनों रिव्यूज इस हफ्ते के, होम बाउंड एंड वन बैटल आफ्टर अनदर, वो भी मैंने लिंक किए हुए हैं। एक इसने लिखा है ओटीटी प्ले पे और एक लिखा है हॉलीवुड रिपोर्टर इंडिया पे, वो भी लिंक किए हुए हैं मैंने। तो पढ़ना है तो उनको पढ़ लो। पिक्चरें अगर नहीं देखी है तो उसके बारे में हम बहुत सारे स्पॉयलर्स देने वाले हैं, लाइक दिस बैनर सेज एट द बॉटम ऑफ द स्क्रीन, many many spoilers. So don't come at me later saying कि तुमने हमारी फिल्म क्यों स्पॉइल कर दी। शुरू करें राहुल?
yeah, let's go.
लेट्स गो। अभी हम स्टार्ट करते हैं। एक मिनट, हाँ जी, सबसे पहले लेट्स टॉक अबाउट वन बैटल आफ्टर अनदर। ऑलराइट, सो बिफोर वी गेट इनटू टॉक अबाउट वन बैटल आफ्टर अनदर, आई हैव फाउंड अ solution to that glitching problem we had, no, when I shared the screen and it used to glitch. मैंने
Huh.
स्क्रीनशॉट ले लिया है और अभी
Oh,
मैं स्क्रीनशॉट में से पढ़ के बताऊंगी लोगों को।
I see the ads also here.
हाँ, बिकॉज हम लाइक स्क्रीनशॉट में से पढ़ लेंगे तो एटलीस्ट स्क्रीन ग्लिच
Yeah,
नहीं होगी। बट मैंने जीनियस काम ये किया कि मैंने अपने स्क्रीन पे रिव्यू बंद कर दिया, तो मेरे से पढ़ा नहीं जा रहा है। एक सेकेंड। हाँ, वन बैटल आफ्टर अनदर, राहुल सेज, इज अ माइक ड्रॉप मोमेंट बाय पॉल थॉमस एंडरसन इन मॉडर्न अमेरिका and perhaps most littered democracies around the world. Radicalism and rebellion have become two sides of the same coin. In terms of ethno-cultural imposition, it is hard to tell the difference. Fascism is a reaction to evolution, and resistance is a reaction to fascism. It's as if one cannot exist without the other. Each is now an aesthetic, an image posing as a performative ideology, and spokes in the wheel of a cycle stuck in motion. Amidst this politicization of every choice and emotion, the fundamental war between right and wrong has mutated into a petty battle between the right and the left. There's a label for everything: insiders and outsiders, natives and immigrants, legitimate and illegal, communism and socialism, settlers and invaders, except compassion itself. None of this is easy to explain, understand, see, or engage with. It isn't supposed to be. Let's go, my darling. Let's go. Why is that the first paragraph of your review?
so yeah, I mean, first of all, writing about a PTA film and especially this particular film, is really intimidating because you don't know where to start from. It's about so many things. Uh, it's specific, but it's also universal. So now that you're reading it out loudly, it sounds like a lot of gyan. But I think the idea there to start the review like that was to basically say that he's managed to condense everything that's up with modern civilization into an incredibly funny and watchable and entertaining and really crafty movie, which not a lot of filmmakers can do, especially with so much going on. He goes past the labels I was talking about in the review. And I find that almost impossible to do. I don't think any filmmaker understands uh, the America around them the way he does, apart from maybe Scorsese. And I
Mm.
think what he's done with this film is something I don't think I've seen in a long time, and I still wouldn't call it my favorite PTA. It's too early for that. I think maybe down the line we can come to lists and whatnot. I'm dying to watch it the second time. I haven't had the time, but I just cannot believe that he managed to sort of uh, channel all of that into a movie of that genre, of that scale, of those characters, and on that screen, the way he shot the faces of those characters, the way he's used that entire 70 sort of Vista Vision thing to actually frame personalities. It's yeah, it's incredible. I did not know it was 3 hours till someone told me after the film. Like I had no idea. And we watched it at a screening here also in an IMAX 2 days before. And unfortunately, they had an interval. You can't help that here in India.
Yeah.
Uh, the interval kind of sort of killed a bit of momentum for me because it may have occurred at the wrong time. But I really enjoyed the hell out of myself. And after enjoying yourself, when you come home and then think about what the film is actually about, that's when you really have fun decoding and writing about a film, and that's when you educate yourself so much more about filmmaking.
Yeah. Um, I was completely like blown away by this film. It's also not my favorite PTA. My favorite PTA sort of rotates between There Will Be Blood, Magnolia, and Phantom Thread. Like kabhi kabhi I feel like Phantom Thread is my favorite. Kabhi I feel like no, actually the scale and the vastness and that of Magnolia is my favorite. But I'm like, but how can anybody ever make a movie like There Will Be Blood? That is my favorite film of all time.
Hmm,
So I keep rotating, and I feel like if those three were my number one, then this would be like my number four, right after
hmm,
those three titles. I I really so I missed my friend Vineet Masram so much because both of us were big Paul Thomas Anderson fans, and we used to
yeah,
discuss Paul Thomas Anderson just like a cinephile conversation, nerding out over his work and finding meaning and finding Easter eggs and rewatching Phantom Thread and finding this, that, and the other. So I really missed Vineet, and I wish he was here to talk about it. But uh, absolutely love. So when I'm watching a Paul Thomas Anderson film, I don't know, it's a thing. Like I'm looking for Easter eggs when I'm writing about it later on. Once the experience is over, I come back home, I have my notes in my little notebook, and I'm reading those notes and I'm typing, typing, typing. The name of the antagonist, Stephen Lockjaw.
yeah,
Like, so I love it. It's such a little throwaway moment, but here's many spoilers, guys. So if you've not watched One Battle After Another, walk away. The lockjaw is another term that is used for what happens to your body if you get infected by tetanus.
yeah,
And the way lockjaw dies, his body is frozen like that in that room. That's what happens to you when you get tetanus, and that's how your body locks in place.
yeah,
And that's how you pass away, and that's how that character dies, despite being shot, despite being chased, despite being run down over in a car.
yeah,
He like he's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I just find so much joy in finding things like that. Even the name Perfidia, so it's adapted from Thomas Pynchon's novel Vineland, where the character's name is Frenesy. And I believe Thomas Pynchon said that that was after this song the title was this name of a song that they used to hear on the radio all the time, and that same artist has another song called Perfidia. So Anderson changes the name from Frenesy to Perfidia. Same artist, just a different song, same title. And Perfidia itself, I think, means betrayal. So he's sort of like teasing you as he introduces these characters that like I'm dropping hints where I'm gonna take these people and where these people are going to take you in the process of watching these films. And yet when he takes you there, you're like, yeah, this is so great. Um, I watched it in Vista Vision. I was very fortunate, and I was sitting because by the time I got there, I was sitting on the second row and watching this movie. So I was watching it sort of like this.
yeah,
Uh, but by the time the final chase sequence rolls around and you find that fucking road, I would because also the way he places his camera, he doesn't want you to see at the eye level of the driver, or maybe just below the eye level of the driver, right? Every time you go over a hump and then you go down and then you go over a hump and you go down, you're like, he's gonna hit someone, somebody's gonna be. And I felt like I was in the car with them. It was almost like watching, those amusement park rides
yeah,
where you sit and you get a 3D experience where your chair is shaking. And I was completely like, it's also so interesting, right? Because PTS said in a Q&A right after, the moderator, David Fear, who's the film critic for Rolling Stone,
hmm,
asked him about hope and where does this film stand in the environment today, in the political climate of the world today. And he said that I have 4 children, so I am optimistic. I can't help but be optimistic. I have to be optimistic,
yeah,
which I thought was interesting. And you can see that in his later work after his
yeah,
partnership with Maya Rudolph, and then he has his
Yeah.
children. You can see that he's telling these stories about what are we leaving for the next generation.
Yeah.
Um, what did you think about Chase Infinity, the actor who's I've only seen her in that Apple TV series, Presumed Innocent?
Oh yeah, she was in that TV series. I wondered where I'd seen her before. No, she's just. I mean, she's just electric to watch on screen in the way also PT has staged her and the way he's used her as more or less America herself, right? Like in many ways, uh, the 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 sort of version of America or the version of the world we want to believe in right now.
Mm.
Sort of a picture of diversity, mixed race, mixed cultures, mixed everything. That is what we believe humanity is right now. We want it to be like that at its best, and the fact that she sort of nailed that um, almost that teen sort of angst of her character. Even though she's older as an actress, she still managed to really make it shine through without really having all the ticks of, say, someone like Sean Penn has such a animated character, such a colorful character, or someone like Leo who has all the best lines and the gestures in the film. I don't think Chase Infinity had a lot to work with, and I think she did a great job with just internalizing the story that we aren't, it's the subtext of the story, and it's very difficult to do. And the fact that she more or less protects herself and saves herself through the film despite hundreds of people wanting to save her and protect her. Everyone fails at doing that. She's the only one who actually succeeds at doing that. She comes up with the idea of that brilliant chase sequence and stopping the car there. So yeah, so eventually, beyond the father daughter story, beyond so many metaphors politically and culturally, I thought her performance was sort of the soul of the film that is very easy to overlook, honestly, because there are so many headlining performances and headlining shots, and the PTS filmmaking, the music, that score, Johnny Greenwood. It's just impossible not to be blown away by so many things. But I felt like she grounded the film beautifully. Like, we don't realize how good she is, and I think that's also the victory of the performance itself.
Yeah. Um, Considering she's not done a feature film before and to hold her own with not just Leonardo DiCaprio, but like Benicio del Toro. Benicio del Toro. All right, let's talk about this character, right? He's like a mentor figure who we've seen this in the Paul Thomas Anderson films. There's a mentor figure who's always like weird and quirky and like inexplicably like completely you don't know who they're going to be from one scene to the next. So here's this karate instructor who's teaching this young girl how to protect herself, but also is like sort of a father figure to her. And then when he meets the father, he's a father figure to the father also. What
Hmm.
did you make of this character, Benicio del Toro as Sensei?
No, I thought he was a perfect sort of element in this film, because obviously, if you notice, PT has gone after the far right and the far left with equal intensity. I love that.
Yeah,
Like, he's really spared no one. Leo's character is a bumbling fool at the end of the day. He's a father who's not responsible enough. He's also like an ex-revolutionary who's a drug addict now. So, as much as we think of it as a father-daughter story, it's very much the white savior sort of guy unable to do anything about anything, and Sean Penn's character on the far right unable. So I thought Benicio del Toro was the perfect midpoint, if you can call it that. And
hmm.
it's no coincidence that he's a Mexican American immigrant. He's actually doing all the work when Leo's actually trying to find his phone charger. He's actually getting his people out. He's protecting everyone. He's saving his town. He's doing it very quietly. Like, that is the immigrant story. That is what America is built on, and that is Benicio del Toro in this film. He does it quietly, he does it without fuss, and he's the one who actually becomes the father's savior. He becomes the daughter's savior without them really realizing it, and he's the one
Yeah,
who gets arrested in the end too. So it's
yeah,
not like it's all hopeful or anything, because there's an indigenous character who has a change of heart sort of midway through a film. There's his immigrant character who's sort of the shining light in the film. There's the mixed race protagonist who's played by Chase Infinity. So it's very well designed and well written, that
yeah,
the people you think are not technically, the way bigots look at non-Americans, that's who become the quiet heroes of the story. And everyone we think are native and are sort of, like son of the soil, and the right wingers and the left wingers, they all sort of fumble in their way. So I just think that whatever Tarantino has been doing over the years in terms of sort of making something colorful out of his rage, out of,
Mm.
revising history because he's just pissed off with the country he lives in, or pissed off with the cultures he's part of. I think PT has a very clear-minded version of that. He's done a way better Tarantino than Tarantino in this film, because a lot of characters feel like that. A lot of the shots, the needle drops, a lot of the Easter eggs, as you said, there's a lot of that in this film. But I just feel like Tarantino hasn't been able to achieve this kind of political clarity, the kind of voice that PTA does in this film. And I think
Yeah.
the film will reveal its layers more and more as we watch it. And I'm actually looking forward to it, because the first time is just me trying to figure out what I feel about the film. And I guess now I'm going to actually get into a relationship with the film.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to watch it again now that I have some time this week. I'm gonna sit. I There's only Sunny Sanskari ki Tulsi Kumari. Is there anything else this week? No, just
No,
that.
no,
No,
that's it. Yeah.
that's it. Huh? So there's time to watch this movie again, which I'm gonna sit and do. Yeah. So to your point, why this character that Benicio del Toro plays is so unpredictable is this is in my reading also a commentary on you think you know us, you don't know anything about us.
Yeah,
You don't know
exactly.
anything about me. I come from a different culture. I bring a different culture to you, and he's teaching karate, which is not his native culture also. So he's like, I can teach you karate. I also have a small militia. I have guns, which you hold so dear to your heart. But I also have these undocumented immigrants who I'm going to try and help live like human beings because they are fleeing strife or whatever. You have underground tunnels. I have underground tunnels. You want to talk to me about underground tunnels? Underground tunnels is a motif in this film. There's three underground tunnels. There's
Yeah.
one where the Christmas club is having their racist meetings of like destroying anybody who's not white. Leonardo DiCaprio in his house where he lives with his daughter, villa, has an underground tunnel which is
Yeah.
so dilapidated, like he probably doesn't even remember where it opens, and it opens in this half broken down toilet in the middle of a campsite. And then there's Benicio del Toro's underground tunnels. So that, as much as you see above the surface, there's that much beneath the surface. Things are not black or white or even gray. It's a spectrum. People are spectrums. People are different kind of things, and people believe in different kind of things. It was also interesting to. Did you watch Eddington, Ari Aster's?
No, I missed that one.
Because there was a little bit of this and that also, young white kids, participating in the Black Lives Matter movement, and they're not really being
Yeah.
very sure of who they are as people before jumping headfirst into these protests,
Yeah.
and how sort of surface level that comes across. But here, I feel like by making French 75, the resistance movement sort of led by this group of people who have long standing hurt, right? There's this black woman, and there's an academic, then there's these kind of people who are coming together, and then it's all sort of bursting out into chaos because they're hurt and their pain has just not been able to, they've not had platform to express it, which I thought was a lot more thought out and a lot more um,
Yeah.
focus than Ari Aster in Eddington. But you should watch Eddington. I like Eddington. There's been a lot of debate around that movie. I liked it when I watched it at Cannes. I thought it was a pretty good film. It's also There's also another. I feel like because these filmmakers like Ari Aster and Paul Thomas Anderson, Anurag Kashyap for that matter, and I watched Luca Guadagnino's new film also, After the Hunt.
Yeah.
Julia Roberts, Andrew Garfield, Ayo Edebiri. I watched that. This is a slightly older generation of filmmakers, right? They're not old. They're not the Scorsese generation, but there is slightly older generation that has grown up on watching these films, are now sort of in their own head also trying to understand what a youthful protest means in the world today. None of them are denying that protests are important. None of them are denying that discontent is important. But in this world of social media where messages are coming to you from every direction, from every person, everybody has a loudspeaker. what does protest even mean? Who are you protesting against? And I feel like a lot of them are trying to tell stories that
Hmm.
try to make peace
Yeah.
with this. I don't know. What
Yeah.
do you see? It's just that's
No,
missing.
that's interesting actually, because I've been noticing a lot of this generation of filmmakers that you mentioned. A lot of them also struggling with their own relationship with uh, the changing world around them. The increase in fascism. What anti-establishment rage is. I've seen Anurag Kashyap get consumed by it and not make a coherent film in a long time. So uh, so I actually like that being so alive to the world around you, because not a lot of filmmakers in India do that today. At least in Hindi cinema, do that a lot. They tend to make more isolated films about things they are only aware about. It's a bubble. So when you see filmmakers willing to evolve with the world around them, whether it's the chaos of the world, or whether it's some kind of hope or silver lining at the end of a long dark tunnel, which I think PTA saw in this film, or that last 10 minutes were very moving, which was very unlike. You can't pin this film down to a genre. You can't call it an action comedy, you can't call it a thriller, you can't call it anything, but the last 10 minutes were so poignant, they almost
And
put me.
I was really shocked how neatly he ties the last 10 minutes. It's
Yeah.
too neat, and yet it works. It
Yeah.
riles you up.
It really does, and I didn't know whether to feel sad or hopeful, or just happy on a personal level for father and daughter. It's so many layers there. It reminded me of Inception in one level, like the way Leo, in general, he plays a father, dysfunctional father, in very good ways. So yeah, I just find it very interesting that this crop of storytellers, first of all, exist and are also trying to sort of shape their the relationship with the world. Their career is almost incidental now, because we know their filmmaking is going to be always very potent, but how they choose to tell the stories, what kind of stories they choose to tell, I find it very fascinating. I find that same thing with Scorsese and Spielberg, even the senior generation of legends. I think they do. I think they're fantastic in how self-reflexive they have become. You can tell that that crop of filmmakers are nearing the end of their lives. You can see the
Mm.
melancholy in their stories. Same year, you're trying to, you see more melancholy in the relationship with the world around them. So yeah, I find like PTA, this is probably his most in terms of his voice and where he stands today, and it is almost semi autobiographical in a way also, given his personal life. So I feel like it's a perfect storm of a lot of his themes and his tropes and his life that has come together in a film that I think will stand the test of time.
I think so too. It's fascinating that, throughout the film, he doesn't create a hero character. There is no savior.
Yeah.
Even when it's Benicio del Toro's sensei, he's a mentor figure, but he's not a savior. He's only a distraction. He's only a deviation slightly that, all right, I'm going to create a distraction. You go do your thing and I can do what I can, but I'm not here to save you. I'm here to save my people. These are the only people that are actually
Yeah.
under my protection. And Villa saves herself. Like throughout the film, even when Leonardo DiCaprio finds her, I thought this shot was so great. When he
Yeah.
reaches that monastery where Sean Penn has her, and Sean Penn has realized that she's actually his daughter, and he has her in cuffs, and he's just dragging her out, and she's resisting, and her boots are kicking up dirt. When Leonardo DiCaprio reaches there, he's still afar. He's
Yeah.
still looking at them from on top of like the hill around them, and he's trying to be like, "I'm going to shoot this guy," and then he takes a shot. It's such a great moment because when he takes the shot, you don't see what happens. It
Yeah.
cuts. And then you see Sean Penn turn around and come and sit in the driver's seat. So the shot has not hit him. You don't see the shot actually hitting him or not hitting him. It's just brilliant editing of just like, we're not going to show you where the bullet goes. He just comes around and takes the driver's seat and then they drive away. So even when he reaches her, even when he goes out to her to help her, to find her, to bring her back, he's still far away. He's still not close to her. And eventually she saves herself by her using her wit, using her teenage gumption.
Hmm.
Uh, this woman of color,
Yeah.
uh, saves herself, and I thought it was really really great. how
Yeah,
there is, and again, it's the filmmaker saying that we fucked up this world way
yeah,
too much with our fucked up ideas of what freedom means and what revolution means and what protesting means. And all of that has gotten so intertwined and messy over the last couple of decades that we don't know what to do. You're on your own, kid.
yeah.
Um, I thought it was great. Ishita is watching us right now, by the way, from somewhere, and she's missing. आप जाओ पैंडल्स पैंडल्स में पूजो करो आप हम नहीं करते पूजो no I thought and also the fact that he makes his villain character look so good.
Yeah,
Sean Penn
yeah,
with his he's built like a GI Joe. He's so fit. He's
yeah,
and he licks that comb and does his hair, and it's just so creepy. And he makes this quote unquote superstar hero character look so foolish with those glasses.
yeah,
Um, this swings, man. I really love it.
yeah. No, totally. Like, I mean, there's so much to take out of it just purely on a craft level, but even without that, you see such a clear story. Like it's incredible that you can actually pass so much out of it when two sides are sort of incompetent sides are sort of mad with rage, fighting with each other. You see someone who may or may not be the daughter of someone else actually managing to rescue herself while the immigrants are doing their stuff very quietly on the side. It's just a lot of things, and a lot of films try to do things like this. Like try to be like metaphors. The genre becomes a metaphor for something else, and then it invites the viewer to read the film. And then sometimes we get lost in reading the film and stop enjoying it. But I think this achieved that perfect balance between sort of being accessible and also talking directly to the viewer, not talking down or talking up. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
felt
yeah.
like it was not condescending in any way, because even Tarantino tends to be a little sort of tense at times and tries to be really gets really angry, and it's very entertaining to watch. I love that kind of storytelling as well. But it's not often you get someone, a filmmaker of PTS stature, actually say that actually even I'm figuring things out, but this is what I can tell you right now. So yeah, that's pretty cool, and he's in his mid 50s, and it's nice that we are in that space with him at this moment in his life, in his America, in his family. So yeah, a film can be so personal and so political at once, which is really nice.
And to your point about not talking down at the audience, this I think is his most approachable film ever.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, sure.
it's you can touch it, you can feel it, you can get inside it. There is, of course, there's layers and meanings to everything, and metaphors
Yeah,
abound. But it is his most approachable film. I felt like Licorice Pizza was just like unapproachable. Like one couldn't enter this movie. I kept looking for moments to like attach myself onto, but this one is go from the start. It's the speed is bonkers. It's moving and but like you said, it's not talking down at people, and it's also him trying to figure out the world where everyone is a hero and everyone is a villain,
yeah,
and the extreme left and the extreme right have some extreme ideas that I don't know how, and he's not giving you any solution. Even though, honestly, like here, this one says the letter was just beautiful as well, and that just made me think of Kuch Kuch Hota
yeah,
Hai.
yeah, yeah. No, totally.
This is the Karan Johar PTA
Yeah,
overlap in our lives. But that's what I mean about tying it all together. He's like welcoming you in to become a part of this and being like, guys, we're gonna have to figure this out together. There
yeah,
is no way that this battle can be waged against these things that we're dealing with without coming together and figuring out what we're going to do.
yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I thought it was such a wonderful documentation of just the state of
Hmm.
affairs right now. Learning from Ishita में भी जा रही है जा रहा है Pandal, very good, please go enjoy. Ved says it's approachable, but it's the most freaking necessary story. At least I think so. He he. The film reminded me of Andor. I haven't seen Andor, so I
Yeah,
don't know.
someone
Have you?
mentioned that actually. No, no, someone else mentioned that after the screening as well. So, yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen, so I don't know. I felt
Yeah,
Lockjaw was insecure and quite sad, and he clearly shows he doesn't belong in the Christmas club, but he is conditioned to aspire to higher ranks, and that is the highest rank.
yeah,
You pay any attention to the news, especially in America right now. And I
yeah.
don't think this film is claiming to be talking about any global affairs. It's very
No,
American. It's talking about Americans and talk about America's problems. You pay any attention to anything happening.
yeah,
And that's what makes this film approachable because all these people are all over your news right now.
yeah,
Especially over the last couple of weeks with after Charlie Kirk's assassination.
yeah.
You had so many far right pundits, so to speak,
Hmm.
really shed their all inhibitions and speak in the most racist
I know.
terms about people who don't look like them.
Yeah.
And they all sound like they could be Lockjaw in this movie. Like the dialogue is just taken from real life.
Hmm.
So, because somebody asked me, like, do I need to know history before I go watch this film? I was like, no, no. If you're paying any attention to anything right now, this film is going to speak with you. I read this somewhere on Twitter also today. I don't know how factual this is, so don't fact check me or actually fact check me on this. I don't know how factual this is. That there's a wonderful tender moment between Sensei and this guy, Leonardo DiCaprio's character, where they're driving in the car and they're rushing towards this place where they think Willa is to try and rescue her, and he says to Sensei, Benicio del Toro, that I can't do her hair, man. I don't know how to do her hair
Yeah, yeah,
because she has a black woman's hair, and
yeah,
this is this white man.
yeah.
And I read this somewhere today that this was a moment from Maya Rudolph's own life. Her father not knowing how to do her hair because
Yeah,
she also has this kind of family background, and I thought it was so nice
yeah,
to have that
yeah.
in there. All right. Anything else? Any last thoughts before we move on?
No last thoughts. I'm just looking forward to watch it again so that, to anyone who's worried about, how much they know about politics or history or America right now, I think the best way is to watch a film like this because it's always, it's specific, but it's also not connected to a certain point in time. This is the cycle of civilization for the last hundreds of years. So it's not like it's only 2025. You can watch this film and call it a period film also if you want. You can call it a dystopian futuristic film also if you want. So I just uh, it's not often a film like that can come along and be a genre spectacle at the same time, and also not go crazy with visual effects and go all Marvel on you. So yeah, it's as good an American film as we might be able to get in 2025,
Yeah.
which is saying a lot given the amount of great filmmakers in the country. So yeah, that's why I can understand the superlatives being used ever since it's come out a couple of weeks ago in the US, in other parts of the world. So many critics in the West, using like superlatives that I'm not a fan of in general, and I'm like, it cannot possibly, do not say all time, do not say ever, things like that after watching a film. Just give it some time, give it. But I get the urge to use those superlatives because it is a seminal sort of American film. Not to say it's the greatest film of all time or a film of our times or anything. It's a very potent portrait of America at all times, not modern America. So I get it. It educated me also a lot, and I'm waiting to probably watch it again, and not just from a filmmaking perspective. I just the poignant moments really caught my attention when I first watched it. I just want to feel a little more the second time.
I just love the name Lockjaw and the fact that he dies of Lockjaw in the end. He dies like a tetanus person would. Like, look at him on you can see illustrations of people when they have tetanus, that's how they die, and that's
Yeah,
how he dies. And I just love that. But yeah, also like he's also talking about radical empathy. He's like, if it's holding hands and walking together and praying and sitting down and like it might not work anymore in our world. There's got to be a little bit more if you want to bring it on. And if this makes people wear a tattered red bathrobe for Halloween and yell "Viva la Revolucion," I'm okay with it. I'm here for it. All right. Now let's move on to the second release of the film before we do of the week. Before we do that, everybody who's watching, please like this stream, because then if you like it, then more people are going to see it, and then more subscribers will come to this channel. That's really all we're here to do. अगला हम जाएंगे. Okay, now, boom, the film everybody is talking about, Homebound. Before we get into really discussing Homebound, let's read Rahul's review of Homebound, shall we? Rahul opens this with saying it is a triumph of empathy in an age of curated stories. Hope is the star-crossed protagonist of Homebound, a film that retraces the margins of Indian living as the layout of a snakes and ladders board game. The pattern is unforgiving. Every time there is progress, it is inevitably punctured by a cruel twist of fate. Every small leap is laced with the threat of a steep fall. I love that. An office peon impresses the bosses and gets promoted to salesman against the odds, but the feel goodness is short lived. A young factory worker sends money back home to fund a concrete roof, but his underdogness is transient. A bitter spat is followed by a life affirming reunion, but the joy is brief. The constant snuffing out of hope reflects the skewed social structure of a country where everything, including emotions, are hierarchical. Jesus Christ. There is no respite. Indignity has a pecking order. That's beautiful. मैं ऐसे ही नहीं बोलती हूँ तुम लोगों को कि Rahul is one of the best writers we have on cinema in the nation right now. I will stake my reputation on that claim. But I know, embarrassing to say it to your face. But tell me, why is this your approach to the film in your first paragraph in your review?
Yeah, no, first of all, you make it sound much better than it's actually sounds, which is great because I don't actually hear the words read aloud because you spend so long struggling to even put them on paper. So I never read them out in a voice or hear them in a voice. So yeah, no, you make it sound really nice. So thanks
That's
for that.
because that's my job. When I'm writing, I'm always hearing it. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
writing for video. You're writing for print. We
that's
write
what
differently.
nice fusion of genres basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I started with it because obviously, I mean, uh, with reviews where first of all with films that absolutely move you on such a primal level and sort of destroy you the moment you watch them, like Homebound is one of those films that you take time to recover from. There is no
Mm.
way you are not crying in that hall in the last 10 or 15 minutes. When you emotionally viscerally react to a film, it's very hard to sort of put your feelings down on paper after that. It's very hard to actually then cut through the emotions and find out what the film is really about. So obviously you look for patterns uh, that affected you the most. And for me, it was just this single pattern of just hope being taken away the moment it appears. For
Mm.
both the protagonists, there's a Dalit protagonist, there's a Muslim protagonist. Both are best friends. They are childhood friends, not by virtue of personalities, but by virtue of design. And I really love the fact that there were so many films happening within Homebound. Every time an underdog story started, it ended. Every time, it's almost like they were not afforded the dignity of their own film throughout the
Yeah.
film, both of them. So that was the first pattern that stood out to me, and obviously, then you want to take it from there. And so many other things in Homebound, but uh, when there is this underlying layer, underlying sort of undertone of hopelessness throughout the film without actually shoving that down your throat, because it really isn't about like sad music and sad dialogues and like grief and murky images all the time. It is actually most of the film is shot in daylight. There are a lot of actually sweet moments between the friends. There are a lot of highs before the lows in the film. So I think it really toys with you in a non-manipulative way, and I don't often see that in mainstream Hindi cinema today. When a film is trying to squeeze you dry. Here, I felt like
Mm.
the emotions of the viewer were almost incidental. It felt like the film came from a place of empathy first, humanity first, before uh, any sort of politics or being an anti-establishment, or we know the censorship journey it's gone through. So people are obviously going to call it an anti-establishment sort of story and this and that. But no, speaking up doesn't mean you're automatically that you're boxed into that bracket of storytelling. I think it came from a very primal space, which I used even in the previous review. It was just about right or wrong here. It wasn't politics or it wasn't anything like that. And identity is comes down to that. And I think it's a rare Hindi film that distills the meaning of identity down to just moral sort of belonging, nothing else.
Every frame of this film screams how honest this movie is and how honest
Yeah.
the storytelling is, and there is no agenda behind this. There is no mission, there is no message, there is no agenda. It's just honest storytelling. It's a story that, so for people who don't know this yet, but this is very common knowledge now, the author Basharat Peer wrote a piece that published in New York Times in the year 2020, Taking Amrit Home. It was a long form piece about um, these two men who were daily wage workers and had to return to their homes when the lockdown was announced in India and the state borders were closed and there was no transportation, so they had to walk. And what happens on that walk, on that journey. If you've not seen the film at this point, I believe you shouldn't be watching this because you will know what we're talking about. But to get an understanding of the genesis of the story and where it comes from, go read that piece. But Neeraj Givan himself adds so much more to that piece. He adds his own life, he adds his own stories, he adds his own people. The fact that these two characters, Shoaib and what's the other character's name?
Chandan.
Vishal Chandan, Shoaib and Chandan, right? So obviously Chandan is a reflection of Neeraj Gevan's own life growing up, of hiding his Dalit identity, of not being able to tell people what his caste background is, and then finally becoming secure enough in his life be to own who he is, where he comes from. And you see that in Chandan's character as well. He doesn't want to tell people his caste for fear of being discriminated against, legitimate. And then Shoaib, this Muslim best friend of his. And these are all stories that he's embellished onto the article that Basharat P wrote, and he takes from his own life. The scene of going to his friend's house and stealing biryani, that's his the friends that he has known in his life. The scene, the ultimate goal of Chandan's life to have enough money to have a pakka house for his parents. That's a moment from Neeraj's own life. He told me at Cannes when we were talking about his film. It's like these are all moments, and these are people I know, and that's what makes this film so deeply honest. And when a film is that honest and that truthful, then it doesn't need to have an agenda. It doesn't need to be actively anti-establishment. It's just unfortunate that we live in times right now where honesty is inherently anti-establishment
Yeah.
because you're not encouraged to speak your truth. Because anytime you speak your truth, the disillusionment will come forth, especially if you're a filmmaker who's made a film like Masan, if you're a filmmaker who's spoken the truth, even in the ad films that he's made, one can sense that the kind of stories that he feels like he wants to tell. Um, so the whole we've spoken about this now, everybody off record, online, everywhere, that it's sort of incredible that this film is in theaters, let alone India's entry to the Oscar Awards. But I do believe that Homebound has a major fighting chance to get, if not at the Academy Awards, but to do some sort of international footprint, which is what is more important than winning awards. Is for people outside the nation to recognize that RRR is also Indian storytelling, Homebound is also Indian storytelling, uh, Sabar Bonda is also Indian storytelling. Indian cinema is very vast because the nation is very vast and the storytellers come from all kinds of different backgrounds. And these are the things that we bring to the world. Um, what now that you've seen the film, and like 2 years ago when we did our end of year roundtable, Bheed was on our list, top films of the year list as well. Do you think these are good companion pieces to each other, Homebound and Bheed?
So I think Bead is the kind of film that would have been a direct adaptation of the Basharat Peer article. It would have been, I mean, by basically telling us a story about two characters during the lockdown struggling to get home, the migrant exodus, all the trauma of those few weeks. Uh, you're telling a certain kind of story about how sort of an establishment, a country, sort of closed its doors and forgot about the people that actually keeps its wheels running. So it's a very specific kind of political and cultural story. But I think what Neeraj Gevan has done is zoom out from the pandemic article, from Basharat Peer's source material. And I think, as you mentioned, he's obviously sort of sprinkled it with so much of his own life and also of the India around us. Like there's a lovely line in Ishita's article, Ishita's review of the film where I think she writes that it doesn't just adapt the essay, it adapts the India around us, or it adapts
Hmm.
the country around us. and which is true. It's very difficult to do, especially when your source material is so popular. It's an essay that went viral during the early days of the pandemic, and it told a story of a very bleak time in India's modern history. So I'm very glad that the film zoomed out and refused to be just about that, just about the courage. That came as more of a punchline. And to be honest, when I watched the film,
Mm,
I did not know the pandemic was coming. I did not know the
right,
year it was set in. I hadn't read the article then. So
right.
for me, it was just a story about two uh, marginalized friends who were struggling to make do with the India they were in, struggling with the xenophobia, the Islamophobia, all the bigotry around them, and still managing to survive against the odds. Till then, it was just a bunch of vignettes, and it was just that. I love the fact that the pandemic appeared as just another battle. It was
Yeah,
the last battle, basically. And that one battle after another, even it's very hard not to put it in this context as well, because it just felt like that in this film. Every time things look up, things went back down, and then finally when the lockdown started, I was like, oh god, it's 2020. This
yeah,
I did not see that. And I'm like, oh, of course they are actually one of the many faceless people who became statistics during that migrant crisis. And
yeah,
we only watch it on the news, and we watch films come out about it very specifically, documentaries focus on it, labeled anti-establishment, labeled pro-establishment, whatever it is. But the film really has so much more context than that. I really like that the pandemic was part of their life, and their life wasn't only reduced to that particular experience, to the courage of the film, to the politics of the film. There was a humanity about it, even if I didn't know Neeraj's story, and I
mm,
haven't read so much about him as maybe I haven't read most of his interviews, but I could still tell that it comes from a deeply sort of personal space, and it comes from a space where it's no longer about trying to say something about the government in power, or trying to be angry about certain things. They're just trying to make sense of the country around us. And it's very difficult to do, obviously, in Hindi cinema. It's even more difficult to get it released and have it in theaters, or have it wherever, for whatever, even streaming for that matter nowadays, because streaming platforms are notoriously picky. So,
mm,
it's a minor miracle that this film is around. I didn't expect to be watching it so soon, and I know that it released just in time for it to be selected for the Oscar consideration thing, that 1 week
yeah,
window. Uh,
yeah,
so, I'm not too bummed about it not making money, because I think it's more of a token release also. While at the same time, I also wish more people watched it, because a lot of people seem to have been put off by the fact that 1.5 minutes were cut or 70 seconds were cut, and the censors had a go at it and highly documented. But the film is so much more than that, even without those 70 seconds, even without some of the dialogues for me were too expository. The way they were talking to each other, the way
yeah.
Ranveer was interacting with Chandan, right? Like the way a Dalit boy and a slightly more privileged Dalit girl were talking to each other. It felt like they were telling their story to the audience through their
By
dialogue.
saying things like education बहुत जरूरी है, हमको पढ़ना जरूरी है, आगे बढ़ना जरूरी है. हाँ, they would know that, right?
Yeah, you would know that. So you don't
Yeah,
actually talk like that. But again, you need that in a slightly more mainstream film like this. You have to find a balance between assuming what your audience knows, what they don't know, educating them, and at the same time just talking to them as an equal. So I think those were also necessary, because if you're going to be subtle, then you're silent, and silence can mean anything these days.
yeah,
So yeah, it wasn't a deal breaker for me, even though it stood out in a couple of scenes with some characters. They were just talking like protagonists and main characters, basically. But I think overall it just came together beautifully with once the pandemic started, once the actual essence of the article basically came through in the last 15 or 20 minutes. By then I was like, this film is about so much more. You've told me a story that I could be invested in, whether it was any other man-made disaster, not just the pandemic. It could have been riots, it could have been anything, it could have been any
yeah,
historical event, and I would have still felt as much. It's just that the pandemic felt like a punchline, a very cruel punchline. and that was not the filmmakers doing, that was the countries doing. um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it very lovely, beautifully written film, and a lot of callbacks come full circle, a lot of visuals come full circle. So yeah,
Like
it
this
all,
one.
yeah, exactly, this one. I mean, in
Hmm.
the end, it means I was shocked in the end when it was happening, and it's so
Goosebumps.
easy to, yeah, it's so easy to overplay stuff like this, like to go crazy with the background score, to go crazy, but the background score also remained so rooted. It was just part of
Hmm.
the environment. It was more Western than Indian. It wasn't
Hmm.
committing to a particular tone. Uh, yeah, it all worked, and for me, it was one of the performances of the year by Ishan Kathar. So
Absolutely.
so yeah, like I to be honest, I was not on the Ishan Kathar train till now. I was waiting, and I know a lot of fans around me. They've liked him. They like, that he's this balance of stardom and acting, much
Yeah.
like his brother has been over the years. I just felt that what he unlearned in this film, nobody else could have.
Yeah.
He
And this
unlearned a
was,
lot.
I watched it at Cannes right after I'd seen The Royals. Like 2 weeks ago, I had seen The Royals. And then at
Yeah,
Cannes, I watched this. And I was just like, what? This is incredible. This is incredible that he can do this. And a couple of weeks before that, I had seen that Netflix series he's in with Nicole Kidman, where
yeah,
he plays Shooter Deval, whatever
yeah,
the hell kind of name that is. He's fantastic in it. My opening lines of this review, which I wrote immediately after watching the movie, I sat down in the press lounge at Cannes and taka, 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 I think I wrote like 15 words, and I shot it that same night at 2 a.m. And the next day, my review was up on my channel. You guys can go watch it if you want. But my opening line was that, which is how I truly felt, that echoing Ishita's sentiment, that there are some films that are bigger than the screen you're watching them on. So
yeah,
instantly this film is bigger than what it is. Even it is not just about the pandemic, it is not just about, it's about so many things. It's an honest and truthful movie that talks about India as we see it right now. And here, of course, is a wonderful film, which was like a comment also we just saw. It's more confrontational. It was more sort of finger pointy toward you messed up, and look, these people are suffering because you messed up. And that is, Anubhav Sinha's style of storytelling, and that's the story he wants to tell. This actually, Homebound, is a better companion piece with one battle after another.
yeah,
You know how a couple of years ago we were saying everything everywhere all at once to describe everything because that film just took over our brains when it came out? Now it's going to be, everything is going to be one battle after another because Homebound is a great companion piece. How we were just saying a couple of minutes ago that Paul Thomas Anderson is only concerned with America, things that are happening in America. The things, and obviously his is more confrontational because one of the central characters is Perfidia,
yeah,
who's a revolutionary, like a straight up anarchist revolutionary. Here we don't have those revolutionary. In fact, these are people who are constantly, just being told to go back in your lane, go back in your lane. You feel like you can do this, haha, nice try, back in your lane. You feel like you're gonna do this, nice try, back in your lane. Um, so similarly, like Paul Thomas Anderson's only concerned about the country that his children are growing up in. Neeraj Gevan is concerned about his people, his nation, and in that way, both these films are very patriotic in nature, if I may use that term loosely. Both these films are talking to people looking for hope. Perhaps PTS film is more hopeful than Homebound is, but perhaps reminding people that these are the things that have happened. Let's not forget,
yeah,
but see where we can go from here. We have to go somewhere. This cannot continue like this. And Neeraj's language, as the filmmaker he is himself, is a lot more soft as compared to PTA's language, who is a lot more robust. I mean, not that Neeraj is not robust, but by robust I mean who's a lot more, bigger and louder and flashier. Homebound is not a flashy film.
mm,
Homebound is a that scene where with Ishan and Vishal together in the end when this callback comes
yeah,
is, it could go so wrong because we've seen that exact conflict in Hindi cinema. It's like a Hindi cinema trope almost,
yeah,
where one person is dying on the side of the street and another person is trying to stop cars and trying to be like, help karo, mother karo. Since Dilip Kumar times, this is almost a trope. So when that scene rolled around, I was a little nervous, and then it doesn't go there, man. It doesn't become that.
mm, yeah,
And that's credit to these two actors, Vishal and Nishan, who are amazing. were incredible.
Yeah.
Um, and I was very impressed. Janvi has a very small role in the film, so she's
Yeah.
good too, I felt.
Good casting there because, like couple of scenes, but also Janvi playing a version of Janvi in a slightly different context. So, yeah, I thought the casting was on point. Like, it's just very. I didn't think the filmmaking was trying to impress us so much. It was very expressive, if anything, and yeah, it's very. I just could see so many ways the film could have gone wrong, and I was a little wary going into it, saying that
Mm.
it can be manipulative because of what it's about, and of course it can be. It's a Hindi film, uh, and
Again, that trope is inherently a manipulative scene where
yeah,
somebody's dying on the side of the street and no cars are stopping.
absolutely is. And a male friendship, things go wrong, and you have a dharma film. So there's so many things that can happen, but um, it transcends labels, right? It doesn't matter what production house it comes from. It doesn't matter what aesthetic the filmmaker had in Masan. It's just a very film. This film is very much of its own, even though the last 5 minutes reminded me a lot of Masan as well.
Mm.
Just the way the slight light at the end of the tunnel sort of ending, uh, very quiet ending, and even at the same time a ending full of grief. uh, so yeah, it definitely is probably the best Hindi film of the year so far, and I know there are only a couple of months left, but and I don't want to say things like the bar is really low these days, but I'd be sure of the fact that no matter how good this year was, if we had the greatest year in Hindi cinema, it was like probably 2012 in the last 25 years. This would be right up there despite
Yeah.
all, you know. So
Even
it
if the
doesn't.
bar was super duper high, it would still be at the top for
Yeah,
me.
yeah, totally.
I, it was really quite an experience watching it at Cannes also for the very first time and projected
Hmm.
on the big screen. It was a moment. People were crying, and afterward we were walking out like strangers who were just watching the film of all race, all kinds of people. It wasn't just Indians in that audience, right? There was because a lot of French journalists are watching these premieres, especially in the A Certain Regard. There's a lot of interest in that category at Cannes, and just crying, devastated, and
But I find that so fascinating because you think films like this would be culturally very attached to the audiences that watch them, and we
yeah.
keep thinking that about great cinema, because we watched a lot of films in festivals that are played at Mami or any other big festival. Very like, for example, the Sri Lankan French films that play, or the French films about the protests in France and Paris that play. Very powerful films, and filmmakers that are so rooted in the environment, but you always see that cinema cuts through all those little labels and barriers and borders, and no matter
Hmm.
what language it speaks in, no matter whether it's Hindu Muslim, whether it's lower caste, upper caste, whether it's like a particular kind of minorities in France, in Sri Lanka, in Pakistan, wherever it is, it just somehow still cuts through all the specifics, and still manages to make people across barriers feel the same way, which is why
Hmm.
I find it really nice that at big festival like Cannes or Toronto or Venice or wherever it is, like that's the beauty, I think, of film festivals also, because it doesn't matter what color your skin is, or what nationality you're from. When a film speaks to you, it doesn't matter if you get the subtext of the India he's speaking in. You are just very vaguely aware of what he's trying to say, and that's a triumph of humanity, right? Like, that's a triumph of a film that's not boxing itself in political or cultural labels.
Because I also think that इतना हम न्यूज कंज्यूम करते हैं दिन रात तो चलो अगर तुम्हें कोई जरा भी आइडिया नहीं है कि इंडिया में क्या हुआ था लॉकडाउन के टाइम पे बट ना एक आई फील एंड आई टोटली कुड बी रॉन्ग हियर एंड मे बी टॉकिंग फ्रॉम माय naivety but I feel like there is a little bit of a attempt uh, successful or unsuccessful, I don't know, to talk about people's own culpability in not knowing the things that they don't know. Like, what do
Yeah.
you not know about the world right now, especially in the last couple of years when you've seen the genocide in Gaza unfold, and not to equate any of these films with that conversation at all, but like my biggest takeaway from watching that unfold in real time in front of us, and then watching films like The Voice of Indrajab, Palestine 36, All That's Left of You, is like my own culpability in not knowing and not being aware of this history, this important history in the world. We learned so much about the 1940s in India, everything that happened in the nation that was responsible for shaping the nation the way it is right now. Then secondarily, you might even learn about 1940s in Germany, what was happening over there and what was going on in Europe at that time. But you'd never really learn about what was happening in Palestine in the 1940s, the Balfour Declaration and everything that the British did to bring that nation to the point that it is right now. So I feel like there's a the common thread that would speak with an Indian person and an American person and an Italian person and a French person, or a Canadian person would speak to their lack of knowledge of these things. That I
Hmm.
don't know this.
Yeah.
My goodness, tell me more. I'm gonna read a quote from my own review, if I
Yeah.
may have permission to do that. Is it's the film is designed to make the viewer look inward and question their own culpability. Sure, you may feel superior in the knowledge that you don't discriminate based on religion, caste, gender, race, but your small gesture of solidarity don't mean much if you refuse to step aside and lend your platform to somebody who actually needs to have their voice heard. And then I go into the example of Shoaib's office, where
Yeah.
his superior is like, his friend, but then he also
Yeah.
doesn't really protect him.
He doesn't say anything.
Um,
Yeah.
doesn't really say anything, and that's universal.
Yeah. It
That
is. I mean,
people can relate with.
we all are part of that little bubble that we live in. We all think we are very progressive in our own ways and liberal minded, and we've read enough about the world. We are constantly barrage. We have a barrage of information that we learn from and try to pass our little opinions and identities from the internet. But yeah, when it comes to lived in truth and reality, and when it comes to sort of actually walking the talk, it's really difficult to do. And it's
Yeah,
no matter who you are, if you're not if you're it can't be just performative, like us sitting here and writing about it and talking about it all the time. We can do that, but if you have the platform, if you're in a position of power, if you're in a position of commentary or any kind of influence, and you're not sort of spreading the word or educating people in different ways, the way art also is obligated to. That's why I don't like it when filmmakers say we don't make political films. It's not our duty to make political films. That the government does, we don't do, which is all rubbish. Bollywood is very notorious for this, but yeah, no, yeah, that's why films like Homebound are so. And it's a very abused word, important, but it's just very essential to where we are right now. You can't just sit
it's
around.
urgent. Yeah,
Yeah, you can't just sit around and be part of the whole silence is complicity thing. But yeah, I mean, you do what you can do, and sort of and be as aware as possible. But what is your excuse to not know about these things these
yeah.
days, especially? So I think a film like that very gently puts it across, which is a nice thing. But I do hope that we see more films like this, because it's getting harder and harder to make them, forget releasing them, for obvious reasons. And it's not just in India, it's all over the world. So yeah, it's normally you only see Indian documentaries doing this, like
Hmm. Hmm.
go, being very artful about it, being very aware about it, being very smart about it, and clever, and also humane about it. But
Hmm.
you don't often see fiction films like this that have been adapted and doing such a good job of
Yeah. Absolutely. I would recommend watch Eddington, and maybe we should talk about that also later because the Eddington is also set in the same time. The time period is the same. Corona's just rolled around.
it.
People are confused what is happening, what is not happening. And Joaquin Phoenix is this small town sheriff who
Yeah.
is like racist and doesn't want to accept that things are not in his control anymore, doesn't want to wear a mask. And then the town mayor, I think, is the political position, is played by my love, Pedro Pascal. And it's a comedy almost, but it's
Yeah.
set in the same time. And also very interesting way of another way of asking people about culpability. Like,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
also like, can people even be held responsible right now for not paying attention? Because there's so much.
Yeah.
There is so much. And is it, of course, it's not enough to be internet warriors, but can you do anything else? All of
Yeah.
these films are asking that same question, including One Battle After Another. And I'm just
Yeah.
happy that we get to watch them and talk about them, really.
Yeah.
I feel like Rahul, people come to these live streams to mostly watch Uday and Nishita because we have a very low turnout today. So, pie on our faces. Sorry, Ishita. Sorry, Uday Bhatia. Everybody's busy doing their things, but it's okay. Next time.
Yeah. And that too, it was such a good week of films, so it would have been nice to have everyone.
देख सच हो गया अब ये दूध का दूध पानी का पानी हो गया है
हाँ, वही.
लोग इशिता को सुनने आते हैं सिर्फ अपने को सुनने नहीं आता कोई
Can you blame them? Yeah.
Cannot blame them. Please follow Rahul Desai on his Twitter link that is in the description below. Read all his reviews. I have linked them also in the description. And, as always, like this stream, subscribe to this channel. I am trying to stay independent in my communication about cinema to you guys. And the least I expect from you is to subscribe so I can continue to stay independent and continue to do this. Thank you, Rahul, for your time. Maze aaye, maze, maze.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
Bye.
And